What's up, guys? Welcome to was it Ruler School Takeover Week? I don't know what it's officially called. Where we are TCG Scrubs, and we came to do a podcast. I know Jeremy wanted a bunch of different channels to kind of come out and help, and we thought, well, I guess the best thing we do is what the news and our podcast, right? I don't even know.
We already did the news last year.
Yeah, that was Colin. So last year you saw Colin, now you're seeing the rest of us, including myself and Joe.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So we'll go. And this one's going to be a little bit different of a podcast. It'll probably be a little bit shorter than normal. And we're also going to have a very specific topic. We're talking about that Oscar accumulated here, if you want to intro us into that.
Yeah, so I thought this is coming out the week leading up to Worlds. So what better thing to kind of go over than, you know, the Worlds format and everything that is kind of about Worlds itself. The event itself is taking place September 22nd, 23rd. So when this shows up, it should be during the weekend. And first round is at 10 a.m. JST, which will be for us in the U.S., at least in Central Time Zone, 8 p.m. Central on a Friday night.
Lame.
So. The tournament will be block format for both days.
That's so you want to explain why that's different than last year, but also the same as what is expected for Worlds, essentially.
Right, and it's kind of the part that would be up for debate and discussion is that they have done block format leading up to 2017. 2017, they did switch it up. Now, I don't know if that was due to, I don't know, player demand or people's requests. You know, people do speak loudly about things they want to see. Because some people don't think that block format's relevant leading into the new year. Like, nobody's going to play block format going to their, what?
It's straight up not relevant. Yeah. There's no scenario where it would ever be relevant in the entire history of the game.
Right, and the company's, you know, and the company's defense of it, it's a celebration for the new cluster type of thing. Like they're here to celebrate the year and let you start off with that new.
They're not celebrating the year though; they're just celebrating the 1 week that the set's been out. If they're celebrating the year, they would have other sets from the year and be like a celebration. And
which is an interesting date for the event to take place compared to when pre-release is taking place. In previous years, the first set of the cluster was released on the 8th or 9th of September, which is the very beginning of it, which meant...
Which apparently it was pseudo-scheduled. The distributors were told that was the release date originally for this, and somewhere along the line it changed.
Yeah. You
Continue.
Sidetracked me with that. But, right. No. It threw me off from what I was trying to say. Okay. Which was, okay, so we had pre-release during the release was 8th and 9th. Pre-release was the week before that. Which led Worlds to, like, right around now. But now we're going to be at pre-releases during Worlds, which I thought was a weird way it's all lining up. So, like, Worlds will be taking place, and we're going to be, like, at Mothership, which are our locals.
Not watching it, unfortunately.
Right. Which is
maybe we can convince her to throw it up on the TV if no other big events are happening that day. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, but it depends on the time of our pre-release, because day 2 of Worlds, which is top 8, would be at 7 p.m. Central.
We probably will still be there.
Yeah, it's actually a really good time for me. Yeah. So it's going to be like 5 p.m. Central.
Shut up, Joey. You don't have a locals.
You don't go to
Are you guys really going to be at Mothership at 7 p.m.?
I don't know.
mean,
what
pre-releases have a tendency to run a little bit longer, so it's possible.
I guess. Yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
Right. The point was, I thought it was a little weird, the lining up of the dates and everything.
I think, See, I think that's actually really good because they can have like side events that like do pre-release and sell boxes and stuff. Like I feel like as a Worlds event, it makes a whole lot more sense, but not as like a spectator event.
Well, I disagree slightly, and also that led into problems like we just saw with the leaks, and then having to release the full spoiler list without finishing the spoiler hype season. And that problem would have been averted if the set was released before Worlds happened. Like, it doesn't matter who has.
That wouldn't have. How would that have been averted?
Because it doesn't matter if the entire set was released, if everyone's going to see the set almost a month in advance, no matter what. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I think
having an extra 2-week advantage on a month. It does not make you a better deck builder.
Yeah, but I don't think they released it because of the Worlds format,
that's the reason they said they released it.
I think that's the reason they gave. Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
because
yeah,
the more
they
it's
said-
just the deck building, you're play testing. The more time you have play test, the better you're going to have a deck for it.
Well, no, the more you can't play test if you don't know what the cards are to build a deck around. Like the core is the deck building, and then play testing, and then you go back to deck building. But the first part is deck building. Not here nor there. And also, it was kind of weird because they almost could have gotten away with not releasing the cards as long as they didn't release the CR, because the CR completely changed what we thought of what it was going to be, unless the CR was leaked as well. In which case, then yeah, okay.
I mean, rumor has it Jeff mentioned his stream, it was leaked, so.
Yeah. I hope they find who did that, because that was dumb. But, continuing with Worlds.
Right. Where was I? Oh, reply to Joey's thing about it's cool that it's now and they can buy boxes. Is no, because the set releases on the 28th, so they couldn't buy boxes because they're still a week before release. It's pre-release weekend, is what I was trying to get.
Yeah. You can't buy boxes on pre-release weekend.
They can buy, yeah,
the best they
yeah,
could do is
see
buy
what you're
starter
saying.
decks if they're there, which I would imagine are foreign language starter decks because they'd be in Japan.
Yeah, so they can't buy box. So then, do the winners are the winners going to get boxes?
So here's the thing: is everybody attending Worlds as a player? Actually, that's all who can go. Jeremy's the exception, as he's going to be the streamer. Will receive a box usually that contains a playset of every single card from the set and starter decks, so they can go and deck build.
And if it's like last year, they'll be individually marked so that they're exclusive to going to Worlds, so they still have like that. You're not just getting gold cards; you're actually getting something really cool.
I remember seeing that on a Facebook post.
Which, as a side note, I still hold to that Force of Will should do what Pokemon does and just give boxes at GPs and ARGs for winners. It'll cost them next to nothing, but it's a really fun thing to shoot for. And even if you don't want that, it's something you can sell to get money to go to other GPs and stuff. But in response to Joey's scene of will the winners or something get boxes, I think that's something Force of Will should do that they're not doing. As a side note.
Yeah. Another thing is all the cards in the set, none are hollow, and I think that was something that people were, I think, hyping the prices up that were at Worlds was trying to give out the rulers because they were non-hollow rulers, which is what they identify that they came from Worlds. Which that was interesting.
Besides there was a gold numbering or symbol or something that said Worlds.
Right. Worlds 2017 or something.
Got it. So what's the pricing then for this one?
Winning.
Yeah. I know that they
Really?
got gold cards and an invite for the following year.
Okay.
Depending on placement. Like, I think top 2 got the automatic invites. Listen, I don't know what the pricing was. I'll admit, I did all the research except for pricing, guys. Don't let this pass judgment on how TCG Scrubs are. We're not at Worlds, obviously,
No, this
so
is
we're not
100%.
great.
We do all the research until we realize we didn't do all the research.
Yeah.
That's
Which is-
sort of-
which-
Colin,
which is
Colin
what makes us
and
great,
Oscar
guys.
do all the research.
Yeah, Joey doesn't do nothing but show up.
I show up and then I ask the hard hitting question that like what's surprising.
So all I know of pricing based on last year was top 2 got like some little, I guess, what do you call it when you get some free stuff when you go to a convention?
Knickknacks.
Oh my gosh, I had it.
Yeah,
Stuff you throw away.
No. Swag.
Memorabilia.
Swag.
Yeah, that
Is that what Joey was working toward that whole time?
Yeah, swag.
I feel like it's called something else. But anyways,
No, it's totally called swag.
they get that, and I remember
It's literally
first
swag
second,
bags. Okay.
and first, second, and third get like gold-plated cards. I know they're oversized compared to the way they normally are. So they had like, was it the Gil Conjurer cards? And they're like, if a normal one's like say this size, it was like maybe slightly larger, so it's like
Okay.
an oversized card.
Yeah, that's cool.
It wasn't quite Commander size.
Right. I don't know what else they got. I know that first and second already have their invites, so they didn't even have to play for the year. But I know that they did play for the year. And in previous years, they got promo cards, which I noticed last year nobody got a promo card made. Usually top 2 get a promo.
A promo card like made after their image. Like they're like, hey, here's a card. They give them a list of 10 cards or whatever, and they're like, I like that card. Put my face on that, and then it turns out a terrible promo that's not worth anything, but it's still cool.
Yeah, they say it's limited to like the starters or the first set because we've had Lancelot in the past, and then last year's or the year before last year's was Shard's Water Transformation and Lightning Strike, which had both come out in starter decks starter deck and the first set. But not last year. Nothing was released. No promo option for that, which was interesting.
I guess the reason I was asking because wasn't last year the whole kerfuffle with they were doing the first place is going to get a money.
No,
that was a Masters. Event.
Yeah. Okay. Then I mix that up. My bad.
But
no,
we get to go ahead.
I was saying it was disappointing because last year there was no stream until day 2, and that was thanks to Jeremy, who was able to set up his camera. I don't know. I forget the reasons behind that. I'll let Colin explain it. But this year there will be a dedicated stream on this channel from Ruler School's channel.
Ruler School's channel.
Jeremy will be there helping commentate it, which is
exciting.
awesome. I'm excited. Yeah, I can't wait to start watching some games.
Yeah, but I was gonna say before we get started, before we get too much into tangents, let's real quick go over what block format is and how we expect Worlds will play out, and then we can go into the regular discussion about it before we get too off track.
Yeah.
Oscar.
So, sorry, I zoned out for a second because I realized we didn't really properly intro you, Colin. But anyway, I've introduced Joey, and then we moved on. So we're going over block format, right? So block format.
He needs an introduction.
He needs. Sorry. Block format is going to be, in a normal way, it's everything from the cluster itself. So we're going to be doing New Valhalla, which means so far all we have is the starter decks and that very first set, which is what, Dawn of Valhalla?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's all the players have to really build with going into this. Now, it's usually people get upset about it because they're like, why do I care about this? Why do I even need to see this? Which is what prompted New Frontiers last year. And then they did New Frontiers, and it was just like, Fox, Prisha.
Well, they didn't just do New Frontiers, this weird hodgepodge, but they also did New Frontiers without properly addressing balance issues beforehand. Whereas this time around, they've kind of did that in the form of banning Sherry.
Man, could you imagine Worlds with no Sherry? That'd be a crazy format. That'd be a crazy environment.
I think people were kind of already predicting what it would have been though, with their posts saying would Sherry ban what is a top, and it was Gil, Keurig, and then everything else breaks down from tier 2 on.
No, I disagree.
Possibly, yeah.
One, it's at minimum Gil, Keurig, time spinning witch as a trifecta. But it's not the classic trifecta where one counters the other necessarily. And so it's a lot of room for rogue decks inside of that format. But at minimum, you'd have a 3-deck meta going into Worlds. And so I think that is well enough to be a better meta than we've seen for the better part of a year.
I feel I don't know if I want to say I feel it'd be more interesting because now that you bring it up, Oscar, I feel like this format might be more interesting than of New Frontiers, but we can, we should get that's more the discussion part. We should make sure to finish off the description of what.
Any other descriptors, Oscar?
No, just the block format.
Cool.
Okay, so here's the thing, Jay. You mean super interesting and diverse? Wow, look at all those red boys. Look at all those.
Right. That's because last World sucked.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago that sucked. But
yeah, it's almost as if in 2015 it would probably suck. It felt it's
2016 would have been interesting.
By definition, block format sucks because it's this starter decks and this booster box, one single booster box, which also only has 40, 20. It's whatever the normal amount of cards inside of it. It doesn't have the extended amount, so it's a smaller card pool, and then the starter decks, and all that needs to be found, which people are going to find with testing and all that, is what's the strongest card and what's the strongest ruler that goes with that card and type of deck, and that's all block format is. It's not. There's a couple built-in counters, but it's not a fleshed out enough meta for anything interesting to arise out of it as of right now. Competitively, obviously, in the down lower levels, in the local level and stuff like that, you could probably do a lot of stuff. Even if you played a competitive deck, it'll probably lose to a rogue deck just because of player skills and different things like that. But inside of a competitive meta, even if it's an interesting thing to watch, at absolute best, it could be kind of interesting to watch, and then you totally forget about it because it's not relevant to anything from that day forward.
I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of take place because if you think the last time we had block format, we had also gotten the reprint of Dual Stones. So Dual Stones were in all those decks. So they're running 4 or 5 color rulers. Mm-hmm. And I remember the number 1 ruler just being Charlotte purely for the draw power. They'd flip, draw their cards, and move on. So I'll be interested in seeing with no dual color stones what they construct, because that kind of, in a way, influences what gets constructed. Kind of going forward. I mean, not 100% because there's a lot of stuff they can use from Red Cluster, but it shows some of the mindset of what people are doing.
See, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Colin. I think there's good arguments to be made that like eventually, if you can play test enough, you end up with like you end up with a solved format where you have the best deck, and you know what the best deck is and what kind of win percentages it'll have, and yada yada yada. And I also know that it's not relevant, so you're seeing something that isn't going to come up again and won't actually like pertain to what the competitive meta is. But I mean, that being said, like I'm kind of like, I also kind of disagree with you that talking with Jeff when we had him on his podcast, and he's talking about all these counters. And so I feel like if you had a really diverse meta and like a really diverse card pool, and this pool in itself was really well balanced, which I think it might be, then I think you could get up to 5 or 6 different crazy decks that are all have checks against them, like the other decks. And so I feel like if the format is well put together, then the rules could be a really well put together and exciting tournament scene. I mean, it depends. Like, we would absolutely need everything to be balanced and all the rulers to be good and a whole bunch of stuff. But if it is, then I think it'd be awesome.
Well, here's another thing that's kind of bothering me though about this, and because we had this thing, we had the big letter back in December from EG and stuff like that saying how they're changing stuff, and I forget, and they had all the, I think it was around that time where they're like do. And I had made the comment of they just did the letter and they would do stuff and then or said they were going to do stuff, but they didn't actually 100% follow through with that because they didn't actually want to change. And I remember specifically they talked about Worlds and how Worlds is going to be this really cool thing this year, and it's going to be a celebration of the game and all this different stuff. And I had speculated man, how cool would it be if it was a celebration of the game? You're going to have not only the main theme, and you'll have New Frontiers and all that, but you'll have side events. You could do side events with Wanderer, or you could have Wanderer folded into the main theme if they're able to balance it out in time. If they want to do block format, they can do that. Why not have block format be a day 2 theme or something like that, similar to kind of what they did last year, kind of, sort of? I don't know. It was weird last year, but why not fold in all the different formats of Force of Will and make a legit celebration of all the different things of Force of Will and all the history of Force of Will, as well as also that would also test the skills of the players. Are you good in, you might be good in block, but are you good in New Frontiers? You might be good in New Frontiers, but are you good in limited format? There's all these different avenues to test player skill, and all they did was go, hey, we're going to celebrate Force of Will, we're changing the company, this is the fresh reboot of Force of Will, and we're back to where we started. And it's well, that's the one thing that players have always just been about, and it felt like a good opportunity to, even if they wanted block format, to roll it into the other ones, and that's, I think, also slightly disappointing at the end of the day.
Do we know if they're having side events for a lot of these, for Worlds? Is there going to be a pre-release going on?
I think it's gonna be based on players dropped, because as far as we know for this is day 1, it's gonna be 7 rounds of Swiss. With the lunch break right in the middle after the second round, and then top 8 on day 2, and then as well as top 8 taking place is a side event, that is New Frontier side event. But it's possible that if, again, day 1 enough players drop, they go hey, let's play this, let's play that, whatever. Depends.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with Colin. It'd be nice if this is more of a convention setting where there's also a tournament, going on, where people can watch the tournament maybe, or they can go play New Frontiers or Epic Stories games or whatever. I'll also say I don't know. I think so. So then if they did New Frontiers, they would obviously include the starter deck in the new set, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
I would think it would be a rotation. New Frontiers is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Right?
See, I feel like that would be more
like defining the meta
like,
going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like when you said like it would be like a New Frontiers without Prisha, I was like, without Sherry. Like I kind of took that as like, oh, it would just be like these 3 rulers. But now that we have the 10 new rulers and all their support, like I feel like there's a lot of, if that ends up being an interesting, I think that could be a really interesting like diverse format.
It could also probably be discouraging if they did that New Frontiers and nobody ran the new rulers.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like everybody's like, whoa.
To be expected.
Yeah.
It's not a statement on the power level of the rulers or anything. It's more of a statement on the support, and we've only had one set of support, and it's really for support that was spread across 10 rulers, and so it's the most minimal amount of support you could physically get for any set. So there's no way these rulers could come out onto their own really legitimately probably until the second set comes out.
Yeah.
But one of them could, like I said, that format without Sherry does leave cushion room for rogue decks. So I do think at least one of the new rulers could possibly squeeze itself into top 8, and that would be cool.
I feel like I've been waffling between like, well, this block format is kind of waffling. Yeah, it's like going back and forth. It's like
what does that have to do with a waffle?
I don't know. It's like a term. It's like
like bouncing
like
in between is a term,
right? And waffling is too.
Oscar, help me. Waffling sounds
Colin
dirty.
didn't think train wreck was a thing. He thought it was just adding the word train to the beginning of wreck. He's like, no, it's just they're a wreck. I go, no, they're a train wreck.
Yeah, that's like an actual colloquial term. Okay, anyways, so
real quick, there was real quick before that. I did get verification. Like Jeremy helped fill me in. Last year's Worlds was 4 rounds of New Frontiers, followed by 3 rounds of draft, which was interesting, and right back to New Frontiers for top 8.
So why don't they do that, and then top 8 be block, or the next 3 rounds are block, and then the next day is limited, or something some combination.
I would
have
like
that
New Frontiers day 1, and then day 2 be block. That would be interesting.
Or even do like. See, I feel like top 8 should be maybe like New Frontiers. Like, I don't know. I feel like New Frontiers would be the more competitive stuff, so top 8 would be better for that. Like, and I also hate seeing decks like that you didn't bring into like if you play 8 rounds with a deck and then your deck changes. Like, we honestly we talked about this last year too. I think quite in depth. But like if you take a deck into the tournament and you get into top 8, that deck needs to be represented when you play top 8. That's something that I believe.
I don't think it's the deck that's being represented at Worlds. I think it's the player who's being represented at Worlds. So that player needs to be able to adapt. If other players weren't able to beat that player's deck, then they shouldn't be moving on to try another format.
That's not true. That's not true. And like when the person is only winning because he brewed a really, really good deck. Like
he's a better brewer then. So
no. I mean, he's a better brewer and he's a better player because he plays that deck really well. Like, but like, if you go into top 8 and like you're not playing the deck that you made to get there, like you could just lose really easily. Like it's.
No, because this is how Pokemon does it. Pokemon is day 1 is the regular format, and day 2 is expanded with the old cards. And
you're stuck.
Right?
You're stuck on such old news, Colin. Even when we were playing, they stopped doing that.
Well, the point is that was a thing, and it was never a problem. They probably stopped doing it. Just
it was a problem because
it became
they
a problem,
doing
which is why they stopped. Yeah.
It was.
Well,
get out of here! Not a problem.
It wasn't a problem. It wasn't. The problem was not related to the people are winning top 8 who shouldn't be. It was problems related to card access, power levels of cards and combos that aren't regulated well. And
people don't want to see the format change randomly in like.
People don't want to see block format.
I'll be honest with you. Con has a point right there at the last thing, but when I used to watch the older tournaments, I used to be like, "Oh man, so and so got top 8. Oh, let's see. Oh, I can't wait till they bring tomorrow their expanded decks. It'd be really interesting. Are they going to be like, Genesect to the tournament? That's how far back it's been. But I don't know. I thought it was cool.
Stupid. Like, could you imagine the whole, back to the whole Waylord deck, and it's like, oh, there's a Waylord, and he's getting into top 8, and then he's playing some stupid ass, deck that he net decked. Like, that's so dumb.
Well, first off, you could technically keep playing Waylord the next.
No,
day
you can't, because it's a different format. You can't play Waylord.
Expand it. You can use.
I know, but going from New Frontiers to Block is different. Like, changing formats breaks your deck.
Here's the thing, Joey. If you lose day 1, you shouldn't be in day 2. Period. It doesn't matter what deck you went against, how skilled the player are. If you can't win day 1, you shouldn't be in day 2. Okay. So by extension, day 2. What deck you have is irrelevant. You are now testing people's skill level in a different section, and so now and that's why I think day 1, that idea of switching it to the last 3 rounds being a different format is a good idea, because it tests that skill level before day 2. So you have day 1 of New Frontiers for 4 rounds and 3 rounds of, say, Limited, and so now you've gone through 2 completely different formats. You lost your deck, had to start from scratch, and if you were able to go, say, undefeated, not only do you deserve to be in day 2, but the format of day 2 is completely irrelevant now. You've eliminated the deck factor. You've only filtered in skill level.
Completely off your rocker.
So I'm going to jump in real quick, because I would say, one, I would enjoy New Frontiers than going to Block, but I also get where Joey's coming from, is because, there's different skill levels required in going into day 2 with that. And it kind of goes back to that video I always pitch on our normal channel with our podcast, which is from the Little Scout, is the Fusion of Innovation video, where he talks about you have a group of people who play the game, and you usually have like 2 or 3 who are like the deck builders, the innovators, the ones who do all this stuff, and then the adapters and people who are able to adapt to those decks and pilot them better. So somebody could build a deck and have the idea, and then you can have people help make those decks better, and then you can have people in that same group who can pilot those decks better than the people who created them. But then they get in the top cut, and then they're not the ones who are good at the deck building, they're just the good pilots at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's why that those last 3 rounds of sealed or draft or whatever, eliminate those, because that's purely based on deck building. So you have the first section, which is mainly how you play. Second section is mainly how you deck build, and a little bit how you play. And then the day 2 is going to be like kind of sort of a hybrid of both, since it's Block, and it's a new format no one's built a deck in, and it's going to be based on skill levels. So like I think that what they did last year, but switching day 2 to Block would be almost the perfect like fusion of everything.
I completely disagree. I hated what they did last year. Like imagine
because they didn't properly communicate anything last year.
Imagine you have 2 people. One of them is very skillful, but just net decks whatever the strongest deck is. And then you have second person who isn't as very skillful, but has created this deck that can win the entire tournament. And you put them both into the track, and they both make it a top 8. And then the guy who was skillful but didn't net deck ends up winning it because he brings his stupid, other deck he net decked, and the person who wasn't as skillful doesn't get to bring their deck in.
Why did I lost track of which finger it was?
I just want to point out, I like how Colin thinks I'm a skillful net decker. Colin, that means so much to me. Continue.
And I think Joey's an unskillful decker.
Yeah, I heard that.
Why did here? So Oscar's the net deck. I lost track of which was. Why did player A lose to player B? Hold on. Let's get down to this. So one person had a better deck, but not as good at playing. The other person is really good at playing, but not as good of a deck. The person who's better at playing, why did they lose to the not a skilled player, but with a better deck?
The person who is good at the person who's good at playing beats the person who had the better deck.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
that's not correct, because once you get into that top 8, if somebody brewed a better deck,
if we were having a tournament about who brewed a better deck, then we'd just turn in deck lists and wait for judges to vote on which one was the better deck. The point of the tournament is how well you play, not how well you
prove which one's a better deck. That's not the point at all. The point is the only way for people who are not as good at the game, or maybe not as skillful, but they can still pilot their, the deck they make, or, the brewers, quote unquote, is that they're able to win tournaments because their deck is better than the other person's deck. Not because they're better than the other person, but because they brought a better, list. And and that the whole point of like this Worlds
The whole point
format
of
just
Worlds is
completely
to find
destroys
out.
that.
No, the whole point of Worlds is to find out who's the best player in the entire world, not who's the best player at a GP or in a state or in their county or whatever. The best person in the world should be a good deck builder and a skilled player. And how you find that is
what if he's just a skilled deck builder and net decks?
Then he's not the best person in the world.
Why? How does that stop him from winning the whole tournament?
Because he wasn't able to get past the limited and block format. So
how would he not? If he just net decks, if he net decks both of his decks, and he's just a better player than everyone.
He can't net deck in sealed format. That's my specific proposal is New Frontiers that shifts into limited and then transfers to block the next day, and that eliminates every single possible scenario of a skilled player but a shitty deck builder making first place, or a shitty player but a good deck builder making it first place. Neither of those can happen. You have to be well versed in all of them in order to get through all three of those stages.
I get what you're saying, but that's why tournaments are constructed and they're not limited. They're like you don't go to a Magic Grand Prix and Magic Worlds.
I don't know. I went to Richardson here, and it was goddamn the only. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss, but it was the only freaking GP and the entire season that ended up being sealed, and it was the one that I freaking went to.
I know. Okay, and you were mad, right? Because
I'm
it's stupid.
super mad. I might have fizzled if there was more sealed GPs, but the fact that it ended up being the only one, I'm like super livid now.
My point is that the format is constructed. The point. Like half of the point to more of the point is that you construct your deck, and people who are good at constructing their deck can win the whole tournament. Like that's why I won when I played the ARG, is because
if that's the only reason you're winning, you should not win Worlds. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but then why is it okay for somebody who isn't good at constructing a deck to win Worlds just because they're the better player? If they net deck,
I'm only talking about my proposed format right now. And
you're talking about a format that switches in the middle, and it's stupid.
Yes.
And it's stupid.
Hold on, we need an Oscar judge. Oscar, we need you to judge this.
I've already chimed in that I liked the switch because I liked it when Pokemon did it. Because of the excitement of seeing, like, oh man, we saw their day one deck. What are they going to run day two, you know? That was really it. And in Pokemon, I think it was a little different because a lot of the top players were usually the top deck builders already anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think... Because my thing filters out people who are skilled but not good deck builders, and it also filters out people who are good deck builders but not that skilled. Because they play through skilled section, they play through the deck builder section, and then they play through the skilled deck builder section. It's 3 sections that cover all 3 aspects in a ladder fashion.
You were saying you do New Frontiers and then draft and then
the next day is
block construction.
Because block, there's nothing to net deck.
Yes, there is.
And
people look. Literally, we had 5 days.
Nothing to go off. People don't net deck local decks. People don't net deck Facebook US group things. They net deck GP top 8s. That's not the point. Net decking isn't.
Net decking wasn't it's not just looking on the internet. I'm saying people had already.
It's on the net. It's called a net deck.
No, I'm using it as a term, deck building, whatever. People by day 5 had already found the quote unquote best deck, and they even posted it in the Facebook group, and they were like, "Oh wow, this Hanzo Machines deck is the best deck of the format. It's tier 1 deck."
With that.
That was 5. It's not the point. The point is these people find out what the best decks are before even going into the tournament. So all they do is
I won't say what or what, but we've had. People say that they have the best deck. They have the thing that kills every other type of deck in the format, and it's never actually worked. It's all theory crafting. Until you get into the real world, until you're playing against Ryan Miles and Alex Blandon and stuff like that, all that deck is a theory until it actually goes up against a skilled player playing.
But those guys...
A skilled player playing a crappy deck is going to beat the best deck in the format played by a crappy player.
Not true.
So, it's irrelevant.
It's not played by a crappy player. It's played by a decent player. It's played by somebody who knows what they're doing and knows how to pilot it pretty well. But it's not I just if you have these guys who just pick the best deck and they're the best players, they're gonna win the first half and the top 8. And sure, they might not win the draft format, but I think having draft format in a skilled Worlds tournament is stupid.
I think it's half and half. I think it helps with the deck building aspect that you were talking about, and skilled players who are just net decking. I think it eliminates that aspect. But more to the point, if they're running the best deck in the format, they should be. If someone comes in and they're really good at deck building and stuff like that, they should either be running that best deck in the format because they're good at deck building, or they should have created a better deck in the format. In which case, if they still lose to that deck that is not as good as theirs, then they don't deserve to win because they're not more skilled than the player who ran a worse deck than them.
But see, that's the whole point. They do make that better deck, and they do both get to top 8. But then once you get to top 8, it doesn't matter that they made the better deck because they're back to like a different format. And then in that top 8 format, like, they didn't make the best deck. I mean, they might have made the best deck. I don't know. But then you have to make 2 best decks, and that's like way harder.
All right. Well, I'm a little lost in the web now, but
I know.
This is, if you guys are enjoying this is a TCG Scrubs podcast. We release them once a week every Tuesday, so you can definitely tune in if you haven't already.
This is every week.
Yeah,
and
I love it. I just sit here and I'm like,
like I hate the idea of switching formats even more than I hate the idea of playing like an entire tournament of blocked block
I 100% disagree.
No. Why?
It's like man, I hate going to a restaurant and getting a 3-course meal. I'd rather just have cereal. It's like, what? How'd you get to that jump? Like, you could just say like I don't like the food they're serving and I don't like cereal. At least the food they're serving, they're putting more effort into, and you can tell there's more skill involved in making that food than cereal. And it's more interesting to watch them prepare it, like if you're watching a Food Network thing, as opposed to, it's not even Frosted Flakes, it's Corn Flakes. That's cool, I guess.
Look,
at least that frosting.
I'm clearly biased because
that analogy went wrong.
Yeah, I know. I lost you. I lost you. But like, I'm clearly biased because I ended up winning my ARG locals with a deck that I made, and that was like able to beat every other deck or pretty much every other deck that was there. Yeah, I know. It always comes
right in that.
Every time. Just say the deck name, Joy.
No, not saying it. But that's not important. Okay, the important part is that's why I won that, and to make a top 8 that switches that, like that. I would contest. I don't feel like it's fair.
I would contest. I would say that you won that because people weren't able to adapt quickly to your deck. There are very easily counters to your deck, and you got lucky with your top 8 placement on who you played against. You didn't play against the guy who countered your deck and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So your deck did fall apart in certain spots, and if people adapted to it correctly and realized what it did, they wouldn't let you do certain things.
It didn't matter.
It did matter. I watched the gameplay.
The final guy that I played, in the finals, knew what my deck did, and he knew how it worked because he watched something else, or he had people talk about it.
He misplayed at some point, though. But
no, he tried to side in something. He tried to side in the green edition destruction, Regalia destruction. But
the point is, it doesn't matter.
He tried to play it at instant speed, but it wasn't.
It doesn't matter, though, because Regalia are not a valid form of his deck building. But
how many Regalia were in that deck, Joey?
Huh?
How many Regalia did you have in that deck?
Half? More than half?
Yeah.
So
like
20, 24
4, 8, probably 24, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And it wasn't Valentina, guys. It was not. But anyways, yeah, I mean, to kind of wrap things up on that, it's just, you have a day 1, New Frontiers, day 2, I'm sorry, God, yeah, I talked about it so much. You have a day 1 and day 2, which are both block format. Day 2 side event, which will be New Frontiers, so we can see what actually comes from Worlds, since all the Worlds players would be there from that New Frontiers event. And then they do have a day 0 where all the players will meet up, eat, talk. Usually some announcements are made. I know in the past we've had announcements like the Battle Simulator was going to be a thing. We have casters and architects. By the way, when's casters World Grand Prix?
So what you're saying is the announcements is them they're announcing things that they're gonna suck at. Is what this is. To be fair, I like casters and architects. I was actually super excited for.
Can you imagine?
That excitement's completely dead now. It's gone. I have no excitement left. But I was pretty hyped for architects.
Can you imagine seeing casters be like, "This is it. This is my game. I'm gonna go play that and be really good at it for the whole year, and I'm gonna get my invite to Worlds by playing it." It's like, oh no. Never mind. I messed up.
Well, at least I got all these code cards, so I'll get some caster promos.
Nope.
Oh,
Well,
man.
at least Force of Will is supporting it, so I have a local scene. Yeah, I'll be honest. I think Force of Will screw the pooch on casters. I like the game. I genuinely really like it, but
I ended up not
Force of
enjoying
Will
it after all.
did not.
Even though it's kinda
do
hyped on it.
well.
Same.
Real quick, I want a real quick caveat. I'm still looking forward to Worlds, and gonna if we're not at our pre-release, I'll be watching the stream and stuff like that. Like, I'm not trying to rag on it super hardcore, but I am a little bit because I still think that it's just a weird format, and if it's a timing issue, there's no reason that Worlds has to be at this specific point in time. You can have it at an earlier time or a later time, so you have a proper format to play with if that's the issue and stuff like that. Like,
I would like to see a restructuring to the way the year lays out. Like, I would like to see Worlds take place, and then rotations immediately after Worlds. And then, like, say the first set of New Valhalla is like 3 weeks a month out after that. So that way, at Worlds, they can do like a teaser video hyping up New Valhalla and being like, man, here it is, runes.
The thing is,
and so you get super hyped on it.
I feel like if we're looking at this as like as a company and like for advertising, I think this is even like this would be way better for like getting people to watch these decks and like watch what's coming out now. Like, there, if we look at this as like an advertising idea, like, it was much better to have this format that showcases off the new product coming out, and it's much better to
then don't call it
have
Worlds.
this, like, that's why it's coming, right? But you have
call
to like
call it Force of Will the commercial.
That's
like,
shitty. That's
don't
not
have a
that's
don't
not
have
good
a Worlds
advertising.
tournament
Colin.
finding the best players in the world and be like, all right, now let's do this one format that's not very indicative of player skill and stuff like that.
See, that's not good advertising though.
I would also
Calling
like
it
to see
is
Worlds
good
just
advertising.
change in general to be one. I know the game would have to grow for this to happen, but like to travel around the world, it doesn't have to just be in the U.S. But like, hey, it's Australia next year. Hey, all of a sudden it's in
That would be cool.
That'd be really nice.
London and stuff like that, and like to see because I don't know if Pokemon still does this. I didn't follow it on this year or the previous year, but like there's last minute qualifiers like on Friday usually or Thursday, depending on how large the event is. They'll put it out in head. There's like a last minute earn so many points, so the people who went like because usually you need like 300 points or something like that to make it into Worlds for them, and people will show up with 250 like to play that last tournament to try to get the last 50 to make it in.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Stuff like that, and it also kind of gives players who are at Worlds an idea of what the top decks were in those events, so they can kind of prepare themselves for it. Again, I don't know if they've done that these past 2 years, but I know that was a thing, and that was always cool, just like last minute qualifiers type situation.
Yeah. It sounds kind of weird that we keep referring to this, but I will say, yeah, I think the entire competitive system that Pokemon has built up is really well done. I have other issues with the game, which is why I don't play it, but it's yeah. And the whole weakness system. So when you have something like Seismitoad, you can't play freaking fire Pokemon because it's dumb. Anyways, but it's I think how they do it, they have a system that supports the local level and makes the local level you want to go to there. You don't want to ever miss a week, because then you're missing out on points or prizing. You're missing out on a tournament structure at the local level, essentially, and then that transfers to the regional level, then the state level, then the national level, then the world's level, and it's this really nice structure. It makes everything easy access. You get product when you win, so you can either keep that product or sell it to go to other things in order to get enough points to go to the worlds. And it's just this really good self-sustaining system inside of it, both for the company and the players, that also serves as advertising and stuff. It's just Force will just copy and paste that. There's no reason not to copy paste.
It was
That's
cool because
pretty
like
much
they would see their prizing and like say like, oh, you got first, here's a case. They'd immediately go to the vendors that were there for the event, sell the case off, and just walk out with the cash. Which is nice. But now they actually give cash pricing.
That's pretty much how Magic handles their like very similar to how they do their tournament like structure and everything too. As far as I know, I'm not as versed in Magic competitive stuff.
Yeah, I'll be excited though, because we've been promised so far a shorter off season. So those of you not familiar, Worlds will come to an end, and then you won't see a GP till January, and maybe you'll see an ARG during December type thing. We're being told it'll be shorter season. Off season. Pokemon's was really short. Worlds for Pokemon was like 2 weeks ago from the time we record this, which was like Friday the 7th, by the way. And I've already been watching other channels who are like, yeah, no, we went to this League Cup to earn points, or, you know, I saw an advertisement just a minute ago for the first regionals, which is the first weekend of October, stuff like that. So they just swing right back into it, and that'd be kind of interesting to see take place for Force of Will finally.
Yeah. Also, I think we're going to be wrapping this up here in a sec. I want to mention to you guys, if they're not already out, they're about to come out. We have a series of videos on our channel over at TCG Scrubs on that are going to be about the game, and basically everything from Oscar's working on this, so maybe he could go into more detail. But it's going to be. All right, you want to name what the videos?
Yeah. So it's going to be a series of short videos, kind of like 4 to 5 minutes long each, going over what is Force of Will, the history of Force of Will for those of you who weren't here for everything, how to play, how to transition from Magic, which is Joey's video, how the competitive scene is structured, and if I'm missing anything else, but I think that's about it. And then kind of like a wrap-up video,
Yeah. And there might be, if I can get it together, there's going to be one really cool precursor video that you guys either already saw or you're going to want to see.
You know what? You guys probably remember us from last year on Roller School. I think it was last year, back when it was just DMO73's channel, where we're hyping up the lore videos, showing a trailer during Collins News, and man, that never worked out. But hopefully one day we can actually do that.
Yeah, it's still something we want to do. It's just
it's a lot of work. Is what it really comes down to.
Yeah, life hit pretty hard for a little bit, and but hopefully we'll come back around to that. It's just a matter of really getting the base system down for the animation.
Some cool stuff since last year is we do have a website you can check out, tcgscrubs.com, where Colin will write articles based on his weekly news. We will do deck profiles usually at the beginning of a cluster and then forget about them and not do any more. Hopefully we can get on that, guys.
We're trying to get more consistent with the deck profiles.
But the one thing that is consistent you can check out is I put together semi-consistent. I put together the top 8 lists of every event that takes place. Usually try to aim for larger. There's some master events I threw in there because they seemed important enough, and
like we'll be doing the 8K that's Games and Geek is running.
Which is in October, right?
Yeah.
In October, November, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's October.
Yeah, that's really about it. Did you have anything else you guys wanted to add? Nah. I might be forgetting. Joe's Corner might come back, right, Joey?
Yeah, I want to try and get it started, but I know Colin's been kind of busy, so that's my excuse for now.
Yeah.
Also, the deck was called Zero's Bomb. Just saying.
Okay, bye.
See ya.
Bye.